Hey guys, welcome back to the Road Hack Podcast. I'm your host, Rushain. Today's topic is a little bit unconventional, but it's one that I think is really important to discuss. Now, you might have seen the title or the thumbnail on YouTube already, and today I'm here to let you know that you are full of shit, in case you are not aware. And you are not alone on this, because I am full of shit too. So hear me out first before judging me, alright? Now, you might be wondering, why am I calling you and myself both shits? Well, the truth is we all have a tendency to fill our mind with a lot of bullshit and give it on a lot of shit to others. Whether we realize it or not, we are doing it. You might not like to admit it, but you are full of shit to some degree. And so am I. Think about it. How many times have you told a little white lie to spare someone's feelings, or exaggerated how amazing your life is to impress someone? How many times have you convinced yourself that you are the fucking goat, and your way of thinking is the only right way, even in the face of evidence to the contrary? I'll admit it, I've done all those things myself. And that's why I wanted to do an episode about this topic. Because if you can acknowledge your own tendencies towards self-deception, you can begin to examine your own beliefs and biases and strive for greater honesty and self-awareness. So, in this episode, we are going to explore the many ways in which we are full of shit and the consequences that can result from being such a shithead. But more importantly, we are going to talk about how you can recognize and overcome those tendencies and become more honest and authentic in your life. It might be a tough topic to confront, but I think it's an important one. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's dive in. Allow me to share the story of a young couple, Chrissy and Ryan. And guess what? They are full of shit just like you and me. Chrissy had grown up in a small town and had always been known for her warm and friendly personality. She has a degree in social work and has dedicated her career to helping underprivileged children and families. Chrissy is kind-hearted, empathetic, and always willing to lend a listening ear to those in need. Then we have Ryan, who was born and raised as a city boy. He had grown up in a wealthy family and had always been drawn to the high-powered world of money and expensive shit. He is ambitious, confident, and driven to succeed in life. Chrissy and Ryan met each other at a party and hit it off immediately. They had a lot to drink that night. Both Chrissy and Ryan were pissed drunk. They ended up making out in the backseat of Ryan's car. They started seeing each other and made it official. The early days of dating were filled with excitement and joy. They went on long walks, made out in the park, tried new restaurants and different cuisines, went on dinner dates, came back home pretty late and had a lot of sex. Next day they would wake up and talk for hours about life, love, hopes, and even dreams, and slowly planned a future together as well. Chrissy was drawn to Ryan's confidence, charm, and social status, while Ryan admired Chrissy's fat ass, kindness, and compassion. Things were going so great for the couple. They had been together for a couple of years and it was all rainbows and butterflies and a lot of sex. As time went on, Chrissy and Ryan started to take jabs at each other. Ryan would often make these sarcastic and insulting remarks about Chrissy's hobbies and interests, which made her feel small and insignificant. Likewise, Chrissy would sometimes knock Ryan's work or social life which made him feel like he was under attack. These snarky comments and jabs began to take a toll on their relationship, creating an unhealthy environment of bitterness and resentment. They fell into a pattern of passive-aggressive behaviors and personal attacks. This only made matters worse. The more they gave each other shit, the more they pulled away from each other. They were caught in a vicious cycle of negativity and criticism, unable to break free and find a way to mend their broken relationship. As their relationship continued to deteriorate, Chrissy and Ryan became increasingly frustrated and unhappy with each other. They both knew that things are getting worse by the day, but they did not make any effort to fix it. And one day, during a heated argument, Ryan told Chrissy that you're full of shit. You're always trying to control every fucking thing in my life and make me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with my friends and pursue the shit I want in my life. And Chrissy shot back saying, well, you're full of shit too, motherfucker. You're always putting me down, treating me like garbage and making me feel like I'm not good enough for you. You never listen to me or show any interest in what I have to say. And you expect me to tolerate the shit you do. As the fights became more frequent and intense, Chrissy and Ryan found themselves becoming more and more defensive and critical of each other, giving each other a really hard time. They would often resort to blaming each other for their problems instead of taking responsibility for their own actions. Ryan would spend long hours at work and neglect to make plans with Chrissy. She would become even more upset and accuse him of not caring about their relationship. Instead of acknowledging that he needed to balance his work and personal life better, Ryan would become more defensive and say shit to hurt Chrissy even more. On the other hand, when Chrissy tried to express her needs and concerns to Ryan, he would often dismiss her and tell her that she was either overreacting or too demanding. He would accuse her of being too emotional and tell her to calm down, which only made her feel more frustrated and unheard. This pattern of defensiveness and blame continued to escalate, and eventually Chrissy and Ryan reached a breaking point. They realized that they had both been contributing to the toxicity in their relationship, and that they needed to take a hard look at themselves and their behavior. That's when they both came to the realization that they were full of shit. They had been lying to themselves and each other about their feelings and needs. They needed to acknowledge their own shortcomings and take full responsibility for their actions if they wanted any chance of salvaging their relationship. But it was too late. The damage had been done, and their relationship was broken beyond repair. They decided to end things and go their separate ways, both feeling a sense of sadness and regret for what could have been. Both plead guilty, and they had their own insecurities, fears, and doubts that they were struggling to deal with themselves. And instead of facing those issues head on, they brought all those into the table. They lashed out at each other, giving each other a shitty time. They were creating and fueling a toxic environment that ultimately led to the downfall of their relationship. So, here is what we can learn from Chrissy's and Ryan's story right away. If you think hard, you will realize that you lived through moments where you are full of shit. We all have moments where we let our fears and insecurities get the best of us, and we lash out at others in very hurtful ways. In the case of Chrissy and Ryan, they fail to recognize their own shortcomings and take responsibility for their behavior. They were both too caught up in their own emotions and egos to see the bigger picture and work together to find a solution to their problems. So, the lesson here is awareness. Be aware that you can be a shithead sometimes. Be willing to admit when you are wrong and try not to give any crap to others. It's about recognizing that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them and work to do better in the future. There is always room for growth and improvement. Always keep that in mind. Alright, let's dive deep a little more. Now, if I ask you, why do you deceive yourself and others? What would be your answer? Personally, I think it's a complex question with no easy answer. But by looking at the psychological and social factors that contribute to self-deception, as well as the evolutionary roots of deception, we can begin to unravel this mystery. First, let's ask ourselves, why would you tend to deceive yourself? One of the main reasons is due to our super fucked up thinking patterns, which are called cognitive biases. These biases can make us think illogically, leading us to make decisions or certain judgments that are not based on facts or reality. One common example is the confirmation bias. It is when we seek out information that confirms the shit we believe in and ignore information that challenges them. This can cause us to believe bullshit that are not true or to hold on to beliefs that are no longer valid. Here's another fact. I know that you just want to feel good about yourself all the freaking time, because I know that I do. As human beings, we have a natural tendency to want to see ourselves in a positive light all the freaking time. We want to believe that we deserve the best things life has to offer. And when you do something wrong or make a mistake and fuck things up, it can be difficult to accept that you are wrong. And this is where self-deception comes in. Self-deception allows you to maintain the positive image of yourself by making excuses for each mistake you make. For example, if you suck at something and horribly failing at doing that particular task, you would often convince yourself that it was not your fault. In fact, it was never your fault to begin with. This helps you to avoid facing the fact that you suck, which is the uncomfortable truth about yourself. Similarly, you might deceive yourself against certain habits you have. For example, if you have a heavy drinking problem, you would often be in denial. You will lie to yourself by thinking that you only drink socially or that you can stop anytime you want. You might also rationalize your behavior by saying things like, I had a shitty day at work and I deserve a drink for that. Or, I only drink when I hang out. This helps you avoid the uncomfortable truth that heavy drinking is harmful to your health, your relationships, and overall well-being. Also, you like to fit in with your friends, right? Well, sometimes this can lead to self-deception as well. Say if your friends all love a certain band who plays at a certain bar, you might pretend to like them too, even if you secretly think they're a piece of garbage. Because you just want to tag along and be included. And the same thing can happen with bigger issues, like politics, for example. Let's say your friend supports a particular political candidate. Even if you have doubts or certain disagreements on a personal level, you might go along with your friends and pretend to like the particular political candidate to avoid any conflict. This is a form of self-deception because you are not being true to yourself and your own beliefs. Social norms are like unwritten rules that say what is normal or acceptable behavior in a particular group or society. Now let's take a moment to talk about why we are really good at deceiving. One reason is that deception has actually helped us survive and adapt over time. Just think about it. If our forefathers couldn't trick the predators, their competitors, or their worst enemies, we might not have made it this far as a human race. For example, lots of animals use camouflage or mimicry to blend in with their surroundings and avoid detection. Some birds have feathers that look like leaves, some insects look like twigs, and some fish can change their color to match the ocean floor. It's pretty amazing how good they are at fooling their predators. And for us humans, deception has been a part of human behavior for centuries, and it has evolved in different ways to serve different purposes. In hunter-gatherer societies, deception was used to trick animals and hide tracks to increase the chances of a successful hunt. And similarly, in early human societies, deception was used to trick and mislead other groups in order to gain resources and territory. As human societies became more complex, deception continued to evolve to serve new purposes. For example, nowadays politicians use deceptive tactics to gain power and influence. They make promises they cannot keep and would often use scare tactics to persuade people to vote for them. I have another example, and don't come at me for this because it's kind of true. Some salespeople and advertisers use deception to persuade people to buy their products by exaggerating the benefits of a product and hiding its flaws. Deception can also be used in social manipulation to spread rumors and lie to damage someone's reputation or to gain an advantage in a situation when you need the upper hand. In some cases, people may use self-deception to justify their own actions and protect their self-image by denying responsibility for their mistakes and justifying unethical shit they did. Deception can be used to exploit, manipulate, and harm others in countless ways. There are countless stories of people who have fallen victim to scams and fraudulent schemes that promise big rewards but deliver nothing in return. These deceptive tactics can cause significant financial losses, emotional distress, and even physical harm sometimes. This is the dark side of deception, and you can be pretty damn good at deception if you master the skill. You can use your words, facial expressions, and your body language to mislead others to hide your true intentions. It becomes second nature over time for some people. Sometimes you might not even realize you are doing it. Please understand that I'm not encouraging you to be deceptive because you are already full of shit and so am I. And let's make sure we understand that loud and clear. Okay, let's move on. Now, your shitty nature have serious consequences for both yourself and those around you. One of the biggest dangers is that it can reduce your empathy for others. When you are full of shit and often convince yourself that you are not, you will become less sensitive to understand or care about the feelings and perspectives of others. For example, let's say there's a manager at your workplace who is an asshole. He refuses to admit his own mistakes and instead blames you and your team members for any problems that arise. This kind of behavior can create a toxic work environment and erode trust and morale among team members. You will start building hate towards the manager, and eventually it will lead to reduced productivity and increased turnover, ultimately harming the business as a whole. Self-deception can also impair your decision-making abilities. When you refuse to acknowledge the truth about yourself and your true nature, you will make choices that are based on false assumptions and wishful thinking. This can lead to poor outcomes in your personal and professional lives. Let me ask you this for an instance. Have you ever known someone who thinks they are a great driver, but the reality is that they are the worst fucking drivers who put their lives, your life, and the life of innocent people on the streets at risk all the time? These idiots take unnecessary risks on the road and get into accidents or close calls quite often because they think they are fucking cool. They overestimate their driving skills. These idiotic people may speed up, tailgate, or run red lights thinking that they are skilled enough to avoid any accidents. This overconfidence can lead to reckless behavior which causes great danger. And this is a classic example. Okay, let's say, for an example, there is a person with harmful belief and he is in a position of power such as a hiring manager for the XYZ company. If the manager has a biased view that certain races or ethnicities are less capable or qualified than others, he may unconsciously favor candidates from his own group or overlook qualified candidates from other groups. This perpetuates inequality and discrimination in the workplace, which can have far-reaching consequences. And this type of self-deception can also contribute to larger societal issues. If enough people hold on to these harmful beliefs and refuse to question them, it can lead to systematic discrimination and inequality. And in addition to these personal consequences, self-deception can also have broader societal impacts. When large groups of people share false or misguided beliefs, it can lead to harmful policies, discrimination, or even violence. For example, consider the persistence of conspiracy theories in today's world. When people believe in unfounded claims, such as the COVID-19 vaccine is dangerous, it can lead to a range of negative outcomes. Some people refuse to get vaccinated or take other precautions, putting themselves and others at risk. And there were some people who engaged in violent and destructive acts, convinced that they are defending their beliefs and protecting themselves from a perceived threat. I'm sure all of you who lived through the COVID-19 pandemic era have seen this. I hope it is clear that if you are full of shit, it can have far-reaching serious consequences with no limits. Whether it is shit about your personal life or things that are on a large scale, it is important to confront the truth about yourself and the world, even if it is uncomfortable or challenging to do so. Okay, now let's talk about how you can develop the skill to recognize your shitful nature and what you can do about it. It is not always easy to see when you are deceiving yourself, but it's an important step towards personal growth. Let's look at the story of Chrissy and Ryan to see how they could have recognized and battled against their own shitty nature. Instead of taking a step back and trying to understand each other's perspectives, they both fell into the trap of deceiving themselves and each other. Chrissy convinced herself that Ryan didn't give a shit about her and also she deserved better, while Ryan convinced himself that Chrissy was too emotional and demanding, that he was better off without her nagging, and their shitful nature eventually led to their breakup. So how could Chrissy and Ryan have recognized and worked on their shitty nature? Here are some tips, and from these tips you can learn something too. Tip number 1. Practice mindfulness. Being mindful involves paying attention to the present moment and being aware of your thoughts and feelings without a judgment. Chrissy and Ryan could have better understood their own emotions and how they react to certain things by practicing mindfulness, which would have allowed them to see when they were deceiving themselves. Tip number 2. Engage in critical thinking. Question your own assumptions and beliefs as well as those of others. Now, I have started a weekly phenomenon called the mindful doubt, and let me explain you what it is. So, mindful doubt is a state of mind where we are open and curious about our beliefs and assumptions rather than blindly accepting them as true. I provide 3 simple questions each week that encourage self-inquiry and exploration, and this can help you to break out of your comfort zone and expand your understanding of yourself and the world around you. And these questions are being shared every Monday on Twitter and Instagram, so go check it out. Links to my socials are in the description. Alright, so coming back to the point of critical thinking. Chrissy and Ryan could have taken a step back and examined their own perspectives as well as each other's to see where their disagreements were coming from and how they could have worked through them. And it was another mistake they did. And here's tip number 3. Seek out diverse perspectives. It's easy to fill your head with unnecessary bullshit when you surround yourself with people who are shitheads themselves. By seeking out diverse perspectives, Chrissy and Ryan could have gained a better understanding of each other's experiences and personal views on things, which could have helped them see beyond their own biases. And last but not the least, and definitely the most important tip of all, tip number 4, practice humility. Overcoming self-deception requires humility and a willingness to admit that you are full of shit. That is step 1. Chrissy and Ryan could have benefited from being more open to the possibility that they were both contributing and fueling the problems in their own relationship, and that there might be a way forward if they were willing to work on themselves, but they did not do that, so they broke up. And before we wrap up, let's recap what we have talked about in this episode. So we started off by discussing what it is like to be a shithead and how we are full of shit, whether we are aware or not. We talked about the different types of self-deception and how they can manifest in our thoughts and behaviors and how it can impact our lives. We also discussed the consequences of being a shithead, such as impaired decision-making, reduced empathy, and perpetuating harmful beliefs and behaviors. We then dove into practical tips and strategies for recognizing and overcoming our shitfulness. We talked about the importance of mindfulness, critical thinking, and seeking out diverse perspectives. We talked about Chrissy and Ryan and illustrated how self-deception can negatively impact relationships and how they could have worked on their relationship by being honest with themselves and with each other. I want to remind you again that it's important to remember that if you are full of shit and you know it, that is okay. It's a natural human tendency. But it's also something that we can work on. We can start by reflecting on our own beliefs and biases and being honest with ourselves about our thoughts and how we actually feel about things. By doing so, you can strive for greater self-awareness and authenticity in your life. Remember that it requires humility and a willingness to admit that you are being a shithead. Okay guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this episode has been helpful in shedding some light on the topic we discussed today. Don't forget to reflect on your own life and continue striving for self-awareness. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Peace.